All right, everyone. It's Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, the meme review, the software releases, the websites by plebes. Drop us a like, subscribe, and let's kick it off with the numbers. We are currently at a block height of 674,942, current Bitcoin price 56,750, chain rewrite days 613, total lightning capacity 1,143.54 BTC. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 9.41%. Sats per dollar, we are still below 2K, so we're still happy. 1,762 sats per dollar. And we did not reach the all-time high most recently, so we're still at 61. What was it? 61,760.
Man, the numbers are looking...
No Satoshi.
No Satoshi the Bitcoin chicken. For anyone who's wondering, this is Satoshi the rubber Bitcoin chicken, and he clucks every time the price of Bitcoin reaches an all-time high, which was on yesterday's episode, not because the price of Bitcoin reached an all-time high, but because we were covering when the price of Bitcoin reached an all-time high, so he clucked. But not today, because it didn't reach an all-time high. That was all very confusing, so it's a perfect time for
the daily fail. All right, everyone, for the daily fail, fellow Bitcoiner and pleb. That's right. I'm doing my best to say pleb, to say it correctly. At M_BTC. Banks have paid well over 130,620,654,000 in fines since the inception of Bitcoin. The fiat system is corrupt and broken. So think about that number, right? And then I want everyone to really think about the news and what they keep jamming down our throats about how they are the only ones, right? The IMF, the central banks, central bankers, they are the only ones that can administer the monetary policy. I think it's completely insane. It's totally just simply, I don't know if you call that like pay to play, but I think it is. I mean, at the end of the day, these people, these institutions just pay these fines to sit there and outright do a whole bunch of what any one of us would end up in jail for. Okay? And yet, this is just another day in business for them.
Yeah.
And these people get to run our monetary policy. Sorry. So that's anyways, total fail.
It is a total fail, Phil. And the part that pisses me off is that these banks, and you mentioned it, these banks see that as a cost of doing business. Okay, so they see these fines as kind of like a slap on the wrist, but they're going to continue doing this behavior because as long as the fine is less, it costs less than the actual whatever it is they're trying to do, right? They're going to continue doing it. What incentive? Why would they stop?
They're making money.
They're making money.
They're actually making money off of being disingenuous. So
they're making money off being disingenuous, and they're making money. These fines are literally because they get accused of money laundering. The majority of them.
It's not just accused of money laundering. That they are caught money laundering.
So. And it's like, but if you have a banking license, that's a license apparently to do whatever the f you want, while the plebs or the plebes get screwed. Okay, because if we did the same thing, exactly what you said, Phil, exactly what you said, we would be in Guantanamo or in some type of prison, right? Because it'd
be bad for us.
It would be bad for us, right? But yeah, man, it's unjust, but no worries, Bitcoin fixes this. One of the many things. But Phil, it's a perfect time for
the daily meme review.
The meme for today is brought to us by a fellow plebe. Bitcoin is us. Check it out. You know what to do with that stimmy. Bitcoin rent. You and your stimulus check. Amazing meme. It perfectly describes the times in this very condensed image. If I'm lucky enough to get a stimmy check, I'm definitely going and putting that money into Bitcoin. Who needs to pay rent when you could have more corn? You could just always live under a bridge. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do any irresponsibly financial things. However, yeah, man, that stimmy check. It's so juicy. So, I'm going to give that a score of this microfiber purple cloth. What about you, Phil?
Silky smooth. Okay. I like that. So look, I think it's a great meme, especially for us, Bitcoiners, because that's just totally, I mean, what would I do with that check, right? And of course, I did get my my Stimmy check, so 3/4 of it went into Bitcoin. I had to keep I had to keep some of it in cash. I had no choice. But then I went I went boating and I lost it. So yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, man. These boating accidents, man, they're so tragic. I've been in a couple myself already, and
thank God for the life. Thank God, I mean, at least we wear the life jackets. But it's just we're just, man, we're morons. Why do we bring it with us on the boats?
I know, man. It's crazy. Why is it that when you're holding a cold card on a boat, they fall into the water? It doesn't make sense.
I don't get it.
Doesn't make sense.
They fly out of your pocket.
They fly out of your pocket. It's really weird. It's very strange. Very strange. Anyways, Phil,
I got to give my score.
Oh, you didn't give your score. I'm sorry. What are you gonna give it?
Rant. What are you gonna giving it an apple. It's getting a solid apple.
An apple. Oh my God. I'm so rude. Trying to move on before you give it your score. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry about that, Phil. So, microfiber, purple cloth, and an apple. Two fabulous scores for a good meme, a fabulous meme. Thank you, Bitcoin is us. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by Crypto Cloaks.
All right, everybody, the news for today, I guess, is a continuation of more Where's Arthur Hayes? We thought that saga was over. Apparently, it's not. Well, this is just kind of like a little sneak into what's going to happen. BitMEX founder Delo surrenders to face bank secrecy charges. Essentially, he agreed to travel to New York from UK, where he was arraigned before the judge, and he did not plead guilty, and he was released on a $20 million bail bond, and the bail allows him to return to the UK. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. What the hell does it matter? It matters for two reasons. First of all, we were right. We told you a couple days ago that we didn't think that Arthur Hayes was going to voluntarily surrender himself without feeling like he doesn't want to spend time in jail. Okay. So it just goes to show an executive that was charged under the same that same bracket of charges that the US government put on those BitMEX executives. It looks exactly what we said would happen is exactly what happened. They would have to pay, they would have to pay a hell of a bail fee, right? The 20 million, and they would be let go out of prison. Now, what was very interesting, Phil, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is that he didn't agree to any type of plea deal, and he pled not guilty. So he's fighting it, which is very interesting, very interesting. And for anyone who's not in the WHO, it's very interesting because the federal government has like a 99 or 98% prosecution rate. Okay. When they arrest, especially federal charges, when they arrest you, they mean business and they have the evidence to back it up, or they feel like they do. The prosecutors don't want to look bad. So it's very interesting that this guy feels confident enough in his attorneys that he's willing to fight it. Or perhaps the plea deal that the US government gave him was not satisfactory enough. I don't know. Phil, what are your thoughts? And he's taking a chance too, because if he loses in the case, he gets an even worse sentence than taking a plea deal. So it's very interesting. And of course, all this has to do with Arthur Hayes, because we already reported on an earlier episode that Arthur Hayes already agreed to turn himself in. So it looks like Arthur Hayes is going to follow the same process. Right. So it's very interesting, Phil. What are your thoughts?
It's like we said last time, right? I believe that he's confident in the information that he has and the situation that he's in. And I mean, essentially he's kind of, I guess at this point, willing to call their bluff if it truly is a bluff, right? Because they may have, under certain laws, they may have something, right, to take him in. I'm talking about to put him in jail, but he's essentially calling their bluff, and it looks like he's gonna go all the way with this. So, okay. Let's see. Good luck. I mean, obviously good luck to him, but like, man, that is, All right, let's see.
That's an interesting enemy to have, the U.S. government on your backs, definitely. And $20 million, that's definitely a hefty fee for bail. But anyways, we are going to cover it here as soon as we find out. But the next piece of news, Phil, which was freaking awesome, and we've also been reporting on this, Russell Okung, which obviously loves Bitcoin, tweets about it all the time, about, personal responsibility, sovereignty, all that jazz. So Russell Okung turned his $13 million annual salary to over 21 million. Of course, this is all speculation. None of this is concrete, but essentially he did do this because he did announce that, and the NFL gave him permission, that he was going to convert some of his salary, or almost all his salary, using the Jack Mallers strike thing directly into Bitcoin, right? He made this major announcement, and this was a big deal because other athletes were following suit, according to that previous article, and he himself said that other athletes are interested. Well, now that he has literally doubled his salary, I guarantee you that not only are other athletes interested, other athletes are following the same path, and they're definitely putting some of their salary into Bitcoin. Phil, I think it's just a matter of time, just like the Fortune 500 companies that were waiting for one of them to announce that they have some of Bitcoin as reserves. I think it's just a matter of time, as well as we see a superstar athlete say, listen, I want to get paid in Bitcoin. F those shitcoin fiat dollars. I don't want that. I want some Cord instead. So very bullish news. Phil, what are your thoughts?
So, I mean, look, I don't follow Russell on Twitter, but, he always pops up in the feed because everybody retweets him. You know that he's a hardcore, Bitcoin bull. And it's nice. It's really nice to see. And this is awesome validation. I mean, let's be honest, right? At the end of the day, like, this guy, in the eyes of the majority of society, took a really huge risk, which for us is a no-brainer. So it's just kind of funny, and it's nice to see that validation. And I know that it probably pains the mainstream media to have to report that. So that just makes it all the more sweeter,
right? These institutions, these traditional legacy institutions, whether they're the media or the bank, they hate this. They hate the internet culture, but they're going to have to deal with it. And just a little bit of I saw a notable tweet before we get into the main news segment. Check this out. Let's see if it's true or not. We will cover it, but documenting Bitcoin, a pretty reputable Bitcoin Twitter account says CEO of NYDIG. This is Ross Stevens. This is the guy that went on the Bitcoin for Institutions, the Michael Saylor conference that he had. This was the guy that he had on. And this is the guy that said there was major institutional demands, and I quote, a wall of money going into Bitcoin. This is him saying, in the next week, you'll see game-changing milestones for Bitcoin adoption in the financial landscape. I'm translating that into perhaps we see a major corporation, potentially a Fortune 500 company, to say, hey, look, we have Bitcoin on our balance sheet. But we don't know. I'm completely speculating here. But just to quote his tweet exactly, he says, not to be too sensational, but this is a big deal. I completely agree. This is a big deal. But keep in mind, this is also Ross Stevens pumping his own bags, right? So, because it benefits him if this turns out to be true, because obviously he's holding a whole lot of Bitcoin. But anyways, the main news segment for today, check this out. We brought on Surfer Jim the other day because we are Bitcoiners, and as Bitcoiners, we value our freedom and we value the ability to think for ourselves. And unfortunately, in the last month or the last year, the media and government has been able to get away with curtailing so much of our freedoms in the name of this invisible enemy that is the Rona. And I just want to show you how scary this clip is, because you have to understand that these are the same people that are going to go after Bitcoin, and they're going to use the same words, and they're going to say, oh, it's you already see this. It's ending the world. It's boiling the oceans. It's bad for the environment. The same type of BS lies that they're willing to tell you. And just because they're a person on TV, right? A whole lot of people believe them. So let's just check out this very quick clip.
My main concern is that we're not going to reach herd immunity because of vaccine hesitancy. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to believe who desperately want the vaccine right now. And they're thinking, oh, well, it's just a small percentage of people who are actually anti-vaxxers. And that's true. There is the anti-science, anti-vaxxer contingent. But I think that there are many more people, millions of people who, for whatever reason, have concerns about the vaccine, who just don't know what's in it for them. And we need to make it clear to them that the vaccine is the ticket back to pre-pandemic life. And the window to do that is really narrowing.
Do you hear that? The ticket to normalcy is a pinprick in your arm. Now, listen, guys, we are not anti-vax at all, or at least I am not, and I'm sure Phil is not anti-vax. We don't care what you decide to pull in your body. But the fact that the government or this person from the CDC goes on live TV and says, you cannot go back to a normal life unless you get this, is complete and total BS. And she mentioned science. She mentioned science in that, right? She's like, you have to listen to the science. Let's listen to the science. Well, yeah, guess what? I brought some receipts, okay? So let's take a look at the science, okay? Because the science doesn't correlate to what she's saying, right? And if you look at the actual mortality rate of people under the age of 65, so far, there has been one death every 1,166 people under the age of 65, and 89% of the times, the person who died had one or more underlying medical condition. Okay. Just look at those percentages, okay? And just keep in mind what you just saw. She just claimed on live TV on CNN, right, that you cannot go back to normal unless you get this freaking vaccine. Again, we're not anti-vaxxers, but what the hell is going on? And what Jim is saying is that it was never about the scandemic. It was always about control. And I completely agree with him. Check out this ominous and scary freaking article. I would love to die from the AstraZeneca vaccine. People have already been dying from the AstraZeneca vaccine. One person in Italy died, unfortunately, and dude, they stopped it. They pulled it off. I'll pull up the article in a second, but check out this article. I'm gonna read it. It probably sounds very brutal, but some must be sacrificed in the war against the Rona. That's the way it is in all wars. This time, it may well be me. In Norway, one healthcare worker died of a cerebral hemorrhage, and 3 health workers were admitted with a blood clot after receiving the vaccine. So they're trying to justify, and what they're trying to do is that they're trying to use the media and all these scary words that they've been using the last year to force you to comply, to force you to do something, right? And guys, you have to understand that this is about freedom. Like, do you want freedom, or do you want to trust the government? Do you want to trust the guy in the box telling you what is real and what is not real, right? And it's just absolutely terrifying when you see this authoritative source basically saying life will not go back to normal unless you get this vaccine, right? And we all know that's BS, especially if you're under the age of 65. You have more likelihood of getting into a car accident, right? So it's just absurd, man. And this is exactly why, trust for institutions are literally the lowest they've ever been, Phil. And there's data to back this up. Edelman, which is kind of does metrics and stuff. If you look at their trust, competence, and ethics, it literally says that the government and the media are viewed in the eyes of the public as unethical and less competent, right? And I completely agree. And what the hell does this have to do with Bitcoin? What does this have to do with Bitcoin? It has everything to do with Bitcoin, because what you're seeing, right, is you're seeing the death of institutions, right? I'm not talking only about finance, but I'm also talking about legacy media, and they're all intertwined. And you saw an amazing example of this happened on Twitter today, where the European Central Bank, I guess they're trying to warm up everybody to this idea of a European central bank digital currency. Of course, the Bitcoin army always just goes and tells everybody the truth. But to quote, apparently this guy works at the European Central Bank. Crypto assets are volatile. They lack any intrinsic value, and there is no reliable institution backing them. I want to read that again. There is no reliable institution backing them. When he says that, what he's talking about is this. Is CNN and Fox and all those and the New York Times and whatever this facade of institutions of legitimacy, right? If it doesn't come from these news sources, from these vetted news sources, remember, fact check, it's not real, right? So your institutions are garbage. We love Bitcoin precisely because it has nothing to do with an institution. An institution is run by humans, therefore it's corruptible. We want an uncorruptible money, which is Bitcoin. And that's something they don't understand. And that's exactly why the people that are working at the European Central Bank, because I know the people that the interns that are running the Twitter definitely own Bitcoin, but the old boomers, right? You guys are going to have fun staying poor. We don't want your crap money. We love our Bitcoin. Anyways, Phil, what are your thoughts on this madness, man? It's because it's madness.
All right, so a couple of things on that CNN video. The tactic that she used is something that most salesmen use, okay? Telemarketers use that, multi-level marketing. It's called a sense of urgency. The window to get back to normalcy is narrowing. That means if you don't do this now, one day it'll never be normal. Never again. Like, somebody's watching this clock, okay? And someone's making those rules. It's complete, like that. I'm sorry. Like, that is just typical garbage. Like, that is horrible. All right. And you're not supposed to be hearing that from a quote unquote trusted source. So that's the first thing. The second piece, though, that you were discussing, about the European banks and them talking about crypto being too volatile. It's interesting that they say there's no reliable institution backing them. They should get rid of the backing them and just leave no reliable institution. They're right. There is no reliable institution. And that's why we Bitcoin. We've understood that there's no reliable institution. That's why there is Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin is the answer to the problem, right? That's what people don't understand. It's like they're sitting there thinking like it's a problem. No. It's the answer to the fucking mess you made.
And it's so freaking clear, Phil. It's so freaking clear. You're hearing that from institutional sources, right? That BS about if you don't get the vaccine, the world's going to end. Again, I want to specify so that we don't get in trouble on YouTube. We are not anti-vax. You can get a vaccine. Do what you want. But the level of urgency that she used in that message, and she dropped the word science is there.
Of course, that's all you have to say is the word science.
It's not based on the freaking science. Man, 1 out of 1,186 people. That right? And 90% of those had pre-existing conditions, right? So that doesn't make sense, man. And listen, one is enough. One death is horrible. It's horrific. I'm not trying to justify anything. But what I'm trying to say is the reaction. Remember that they have tried to justify closing the economy and closing businesses because of this horrible virus. Their matrix is so freaking broken, and they're the last ones to realize what the hell is going on. And you're seeing the same thing throughout institutions in general. You're seeing this with government institutions. You're seeing this with media institutions. You're seeing this with academic institutions. People don't trust what these experts have to say anymore. They're fed up with them.
People are realizing that it's incentives, right? And they just got to sit there and look at, why are they saying this? Well, how am I being incentivized?
It's crazy. And you know what? I'm so excited for this new world that we're heading in, this new world of disintermediated everything, disintermediate media, disintermediate money, and disintermediate education, hopefully too, right? So you don't have to be brainwashed into, but it's just, man, it's so many things are happening.
It's crazy.
remember that there are no conspiracies, but there are also no coincidences. I'm just ripping that off Steve Bannon just because it sounds very conspiratorial what we're talking about. But man, it's just it's things that are so obvious. They're very easy to point out, but because it's exactly what we said, but because the fact checkers or the institutions aren't the ones running these stories, they get underreported, right? But yeah, man, us Bitcoiners are there fighting the fight, and we're trying to tell everybody the truth, and that is Bitcoin. But anyways, Phil, there was a software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. Looks like we've got, what is that? HWI version 2.0.0 that was released. I haven't heard of this one. I got to go dig into that. Anyways, that's down below in the show notes. Check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what that is, but it was posted in the NoBS Telegram group, which is where we get our software updates from. So shout out to them. Awesome Telegram group. Awesome Telegram group. I can't recommend it any more. But anyways, guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to smash that like button. And smash it. Yeah, what Phil said. Yeah. And if you love the episode, subscribe. And of course, we will see you tomorrow for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.